Hey everyone, welcome back to another video where we're going to be talking about the South African Indie Film Festival. Today we're going to be talking about a really exciting and cool movie called I Used to Love Him by Brandon Clarke, and we're joined by him today. Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
No, I really do appreciate it. I know that this interview was set up last minute, so the fact that you're willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to join me today really does mean the world to me. Just for the viewers at home, can you just give us a brief synopsis of what this film is about?
So, I Used to Love Him is set in a dystopian future in Cape Town, where Cape Town is essentially being extricated from South Africa and is living as its own independent state. And it's a police state as well, which means the oppressed is definitely ruling over the oppressors are definitely ruling over the oppressed with an iron fist, and it's horrible. And we follow this expired police officer who was a former cop, now turned to a driver who roams the city, and basically he's trying to keep his identity hidden. And at the same time, he's part of the underground organization called the HAR, and they are trying to overthrow the government that were called the VIF. And his mission essentially in this film is to go back to his estranged lover at the jazz club, where she is also part of the HAR, and he wants to confess a murder that he committed, which links them both to the part of the organization that they're part of, and also the VIF, because he lives in two worlds. And where does his loyalties lie at the end of the day? And that's ultimately the question of I Used to Love Him.
So I have to say, something that I really enjoy about the film is it's got a very good blend of both present day and the future. Is that something you just had to deal with in regards to the fact that you did have a limited budget with this being a short film, or is that something you did intentionally? Because as you mentioned as well, we've got the jazz singer who's a love interest, but that also definitely makes the film feel a little bit more set in the past. So it has these elements of past, present, and future. Is that something that you were trying to blend together in this movie?
Yeah, I think because it's set in a sort of near future, so it's not really specified of where we are at in what specific time. So I think society is still moving towards the ultimate future that we do want, where everything, where brands are different, because we still have the normal brands that we do have, we still have the banks, the ABSA and the Standard Bank, and all of those things still exist in this world. But we are slowly progressing, as you do see with the technologies in the film, the things called ad discs, and those things are disposable things that you throw away. Which is also another cool thing about that, was that I had this company that was corrupted by the VIF, so they're funded by the government to create these things, but at the same time, their green sort of ideas are still fueled by bad intentions, which is I don't know, it's interesting to think, because I think there are some companies in our current day that are like that present this idea that oh, we're doing good for the planet, or we're doing good for the society, but then ultimately they're still funded by private organizations and a corrupt government. And yeah, for me, it's taking what we have in the present, but slowly moving it to the future, so still keeping and retaining it to show that society is going towards that future, but not yet there. And also limited budget. So yeah.
It's amazing how you were able to produce such a high quality film though on such a limited budget. It was also one of the longer short films that's going to be featured at the SA Indie Film Festival. So with it being almost 20 minutes in length, can you give me an idea of roughly how long it took you to film this film? Because there were multiple locations, multiple different actors. I can't imagine this having necessarily been a short filming schedule. So roughly how long did it take you?
4 days in total. It took us 2 days to shoot in Cape Town, and then 2 days to shoot at the jazz club. And it was a rough schedule. I'm not going to be honest. I'm not going to lie, because we did have to do an apartment, then we have to do the streets, then we had to do the car scenes, then we had to do the jazz club. So it was a lot, and thankfully I had good producers who could handle that pressure, and also a good crew that understood the assignment, which is always nice. But yeah, it took in total 4 days, and it was essentially I think 14-hour days or something. Yeah.
I have to say I'm very impressed by that. In fact, I'm actually blown away, because the fact that you were able to film so much in just 4 days is incredibly commendable. So I have to say well done to you, well done to the staff and crew, because that is truly impressive. So this is a great film in regards to world building. Is this basically going to be a once-off film for you, or are you wanting this to spin off into other projects? Are you wanting to do a feature film, potentially a series, or are you just wanting to do a series of short films that kind of work together and fall into this world? Is that something that would interest you?
That is such a good question. And yes, I am very interested in actually developing this story into something larger, because I do have a little mini world Bible that I developed that sort of explains all of the origins of many of the things existing within our world. For instance, the guy with the closed face, like you don't see, those are called the commissioner's wings, and those people have like such an interesting backstory and how they function, because they are like cyborgs in a way, because they're not like completely real, which is always interesting to me. And then also the commissioner himself, which is like this very cool, intimidating character. He wears the hat, and so, I know he just comes with this presence, and I like that. And also the weapons and the technologies and all of those things can still be explored in a bigger story. So I'm definitely open to expanding the story into something that is either a TV show or a feature. I'm not particularly sure. I think a feature is nice and tight because it's like you can bring in a lot of audiences for that. A series is obviously way more budget. And I have also started writing a short story that is like a prequel to a little event that happened, the VIF riots and all of those things. So yeah, I'm definitely like keen to developing it further.
So what I also really enjoyed about your film is like there's a lot of different, as you mentioned, like a lot of different working cogs that make this machine work. There's a lot of different elements. You also just spoke about, the specific characters you were talking about. Were there any influences that you took from different movies or shows that helped you shape this world?
The biggest influence, the biggest influence for me was Blade Runner 2049, definitely. It inspired a lot of my visual aesthetic of the film. And then just a bunch of like neo-noir movies, especially Dark City, which is like the film that I inspired the character of the Commissioner's Wing and the whole look. And then also, I can't get to the film's name now, and I'm so bad at not getting to it. But like, it's a film by James Cameron's ex-wife, who did The Hurt Locker. And it's also like this neo-noir dystopian future police state like run LA. And that was one of my biggest inspirations as well for the Officer Max, the scene where he ultimately kills Eileen's sister. Yeah, it's a bunch of neo-noir movies and then like Blade Runner, essentially.
Well, Brandon, as we're heading towards the end of this interview, I just want to know, are there any projects that you're busy working on currently? And can you just let the viewers at home know, are there any different social media platforms that they can follow you on? Do you have a newsletter? Do you have a website? Just so that they can keep up to date with your projects.
Yes, I am currently developing a horror film. I'm doing the outline and treatment for it. And it's a cosmic horror inspired by an H.P. Lovecraft story that deals with a lot of South Africa's trauma and current racial tensions in this country. Very interesting story. And then I also have a bunch of short films that I want to make in the coming year. And yeah, just trying to be as creative as possible. And I think people can follow me on Instagram. It's my most active account. And that's Brandon_CLR.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I know that the viewers at home really appreciate it as well. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to your future films. The fact that you were able to produce something of such a high quality on such a short schedule, as you said, 4 days, that's very commendable. That is very impressive. So I can't wait to see what you produce next. I really mean that, man.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And for those of you that are at home busy watching this interview, do not be afraid to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you have any questions for either the South African Indie Film Festival or for Brandon, comment down below and we'll make sure to answer them. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today.